So, as I say, welcome. My name is Charlie, and I'm joined this evening by my wonderful colleague, Beth. We're your Twinkl Phonics trainers, and we're going to be leading the session this evening. So we'll take a look at some basic phonics terminology and key concepts, the Twinkl Phonics approach and progression, and how you can help your child with phonics at home. Whether or not you have a Twinkl membership, there are lots of ways that we can support you as a parent or carer. So, for example, without membership, you can access the Twinkl social media platforms, including @Twinkl Parents on Facebook, Instagram, X and YouTube. You have access to a 24/7 support from our customer services team, Twinkl Cares. You can get access to a range of free taster packs and activity packs covering lots of different topics. And you could also sign up for free events hosted by the Twinkl Parents team. If you do have a Twinkl membership, there are lots of resources available depending on the level of membership that you've got. So from activities, online games, tailored parent guides, and the Twinkl Parents Hub, lots of resources are available to support you and your children. There are different levels of membership available, core, extra and ultimate, and with them come different access to a whole host of products. For example, Twinkl Phonics resources are accessed with an ultimate membership. As parents and carers, we don't expect you to have an ultimate membership, but in order to access Twinkl Phonics, your child's school will have one. So if you'd like any support in accessing any of the resources we share with you today, you could contact your child's school to help you with that. So what is phonics all about? Schools are required to teach systematic synthetic phonics, SSP. Twinkl Phonics is an SSP and is on the government's list of validated programmes, which means that it has been checked to have all the necessary requirements. I'm just going to show you a video now to explain a little bit more about what that systematic synthetic phonics means.
So, what is systematic synthetic phonics? Well, synthetic phonics is a method used for teaching children how to read. Through this process, children learn that all words in the English language are reducible to units of sound called phonemes, which we then write down using letters or small groups of letters called graphemes. The reason it's often called systematic synthetic phonics is because children learn about all the different sounds, spellings and grapheme phoneme correspondences in a specific fashion. Children are taught how to break up or decode words into individual sounds, and then they are taught how to blend all the sounds together as a way of reading an entire word. Sounds great, huh? Well, systematic synthetic phonics is definitely a great way to teach young children how to read.
Systematic synthetic phonics teaches reading and spelling, breaks words down into individual phonemes, builds on prior learning, is a progressive curriculum.
So we're now going to take a look at why phonics is considered so important. I'm going to start by reading out a quote to you that hopefully will make that become clear. If a child memorised 10 words, the child can only read 10 words. But if a child learns the sounds of 10 letters, the child will be able to read 350 three-sound words, 4,320 four-sound words, and 21,650 five-sound words. The first sounds that children are taught are sat, p, n, commonly known as satpin. The reason we do not teach these in order of the alphabet is because by only using these 6 sounds, many small words can be made for children to start practicing the early skills of reading and writing. Then new sounds are added to increase this amount. So with this in mind, just using satpin, those first 6 sounds that are taught, have a think how many small words you can make just in the next few moments. If you've got a piece of paper and a pen, just jot them down. If not, then just thinking about it in your own mind. So most likely you've made lots of small words. Sat, pin, it, in, sip, sit, nap, nip, and so on and so on. And you may have even made some longer words like satin as well. One of the important principles of phonics is that children are taught to say sounds in a pure way. This means that they don't pronounce sounds with an unintended additional sound at the end. This is called a schwa. For example, s is with a schwa, where s is the pure sound. Having at the end of sounds can make it difficult for children to blend the sounds together to read. We use a chin shelf with our teachers to support them to check that they're using pure sounds. Some specific sounds to point out that you might notice here are that we say the sound, or we're going to in a moment, say this 3 times, but the sound is represented in a different way each time. Children learn early on that sounds can be spelt in a variety of ways. We'll also say f, oo, and s twice for the same reason. You'll also notice here at Twinkl Phonics, we teach saying z as well, as we know that children are likely to use plurals like pigs and dogs in their speech from an early age, providing them with the scaffolding they need to read and write familiar words. So we're going to briefly go through each sound in level 2, which is typically taught in reception. Remember, we're focusing on articulating the sounds in a pure way. So you can follow on. Please stay on mute and make a chin shelf if you'd like to with me by linking the fingers of your hands together. If your sounds are pure, you shouldn't feel much pressure pushing on your chin shelf. Okay, some sounds don't always come out 100% on microphone, so apologies if that happens. Ah, I, d, d, o, e, s, z. Thank you for joining in with me there. I know that was quite quick, and we do have some resources on the slides that can help you to go back and look at those in a little bit more detail if you'd like to. Phonics does contain a lot of specific terminology, and it's important to ensure that we're using the correct words and that everyone uses them with consistency. During their Twinkl Phonics lessons, your child will be exposed to a range of this terminology, which I'm going to guide you through now. So phoneme, that's the smallest unit of sound in words. When we think of the word phoneme, we can think of a phone and how we use our phone to listen to sound. An example of a phoneme would be s. Grapheme. This is the written representation of a sound. When we think of the word grapheme, we can think of a graph, which is a written representation. An example of this would be the grapheme S. Then we have grapheme phoneme correspondence, or GPC, which is being able to hear the phoneme S and write down the grapheme S, or reading the grapheme S and knowing that the phoneme is S. This is crucial for children to be able to read and spell effectively. Digraph, a grapheme containing 2 letters making just one sound or phoneme. At Twinkl Phonics, we explain that digraphs are partners because they work together to make one sound. So here is an example of the vowel digraph A, like in rain, and the consonant digraph sh, like in ship. Trigraph, that's a grapheme containing 3 letters that makes just one sound or phoneme. At Twinkl Phonics, we describe trigraphs as a team. So I, G, and H are a team. They say I, as in the word light. When introducing digraphs and trigraphs, we refer to them as their letter names to avoid creating a misconception of learners attempting to say their phonemes and blend them together. Split digraph. 2 letters making one sound that are divided by a consonant. In Twinkl Phonics, we sometimes refer to them as cheeky partners. They've been split up by a consonant, and the smile line indicates that they still work together to make one sound. We can tell this as a story. The vowels are too chatty to sit together and have to be split up by the sensible consonant, but they still like to hold hands under the table. That's the smile line. Split digraphs are all made of vowels. A as in cake, A, E as in Eve, E, V. I as in time, I, M. O as in stone, st, O, N. U as in flute, U, U, T, and U as in cube, U, B. You notice that last one can make two different sounds. Moving on then to alternative graphemes. So alternative graphemes refers to graphemes that make the same sound but are spelt differently. As they progress through phonics, children learn that there can be different ways to spell some sounds. Here we can see the different E sounds: E in trapeze, E in equal, E in cheese, and E in leaf. These alternative graphemes have different mnemonics. That's the images that support children's memory of graphemes that you can see on the slide there. There are also alternative phonemes. These are phonemes that are spelt the same but sound different, such as Z in feather and Th in moth, or U in moon and U in book. The mnemonics are an essential scaffold when the children are first learning these different sounds. Adjacent consonants. These are two or more consonant letters in sequence that represent separate phonemes. For example, in stream. Although individually each one is just a normal GPC, when they're clustered together, children can find them challenging to blend or segment, especially if they come at the start of a word. For example, children can often confuse the t and at the start of tree with ch. This is why they're given a different name, and focused teaching time is given to the skill of reading them. In the word prompt, the adjacent consonants are t. Say the word out loud to yourself and listen to the separate sounds that they can make. In the word drill, in this level 4 workbook activity, the adjacent consonants are d and Again, say it to yourself and note how you can hear those individual sounds. Tricky or common exception words. These are the same thing. Twinkl Phonics and Rhino readers both use the term tricky words in levels 2 to 4, typically taught in reception, and common exception words in levels 5 to 6, typically taught in years 1 and 2. The reading framework defines these as words with GPCs that are unusual or have not yet been taught in a programme. The words are taught before all the GPCs are taught because they're common words children need in order to read even simple sentences. These include words such as the, to, and was. What this means in practice is that these are words that we don't ask our children to sound out. They need to learn them by sight as a whole word. Your children will be taught to identify the part of the word that is tricky. For example, in the word to, the letter O is making an oo sound. And in the word said, the letters A and I are making an eh sound. So those are the tricky parts. Some words will become decodable as children move through the phonics programme and are taught the new GPC or spelling rule, and others will remain tricky. Blending. Joining individual speech sounds together to read a word. Blending is the process of pushing sounds together to make words. In the earliest stages, before children can recognise any graphemes, this can be done orally. When children are ready to read words, we use sound buttons and bars in Twinkl Phonics to support children with recognising each individual sound, like in this example. Sh, ooh. Shell. Secure, rapid recall of individual letter sounds, digraphs and trigraphs is crucial to enable children to blend words effectively. There are different forms of blending to support learners on their journey to blending for reading. Blending is easiest when words begin with continuous sounds, such as ow, z, that can be held. With continuous blending, all the sounds melt into one. This helps early readers as they don't have to remember all the sounds. It's important for us to think about how many sounds we are asking children to blend. We might want to start with simple words made of a vowel and consonant, such as it, before moving on to more complex words such as man or cat. We can support learners by showing pictures to match the words they're blending to reinforce the word. Let's watch this example of continuous blending.
Man, man.
To give children as much opportunity to practice blending as possible, we can bring oral blending into our everyday activities with instructions. Go and get your oat. Or games. I spy with my little eye a d, o, l. Simon says, put your hands on your d, or even when reading a story. Be mindful that you don't do this too much though, just the occasional word in a sentence. Part words can be a fun way as well to bring blending into the day. Pop it in the doorway of a regularly used room, such as the kitchen, so your child has to blend the word in order to enter the room. Labels with added sound buttons around the home can be an easy way to introduce blending opportunities, such as these examples of b, I, n, and the more advanced r, b, ish. Segmenting. Breaking down words into individual speech sounds to spell a word. It's almost the reverse of blending. Children listen to and identify the phonemes in a word and then choose the correct grapheme or graphemes to represent them. This skill is first developed orally, focusing on hearing and saying the individual phonemes in a simple word. Once children can orally segment, they can then progress to recording the sounds they hear using the graphemes that they've learned. We can support children beginning to segment words by using phoneme frames like this one on the screen and putting each individual sound in a different box of the frame. Shell, sh, oo. You can see in this example that because sh makes one sound, both graphemes share the same box, and that is the same for oo. It's important when blending and segmenting to use pure sounds and be careful not to add a schwa. Here are some practical activities that will support learners to develop secure segmenting skills. The first activity is called What's Missing?
Let's have a look at the objects on the tray. I can see a book, a peg, a goat, a shell, a bee, a dog, a pen, and a chick. I'm going to cover up the objects on the tray, and I'm going to secretly take one and hide it. I wonder which object is missing. Have you spotted it? Let's sound talk the object for Robot Rick. What object do you think is missing? You think it's the dog. Dog. Shall we have a look? It is. It's the dog. Well done.
You could adapt this activity using any pictures or objects that you have available in your home. It's important to remember that the words that you are segmenting can include a wide variety of CVC words. They don't need to be limited to just single-lettered UPCs. Next, we're going to have a look at an activity called Pizza Pizza.
Today, we're going to be making some funny pizzas for Robot Rick. Here are the toppings. I wonder which toppings we're going to pop on our pizza. Let's roll the dice and find out. Oh, what are we going to put on our pizza? Can you robot talk for Robot Rick? That's right. Can you find some for our pizza? What else are we going to pop on our pizza? Ooh, what can you see? Can you say the sounds for Robot Rick? Ch, ease. Ch, ease. Can you find some to pop on your pizza? Brilliant. Shall we pop one more thing on our pizza? Ooh, what does Robot Rick want on his pizza now? Ooh, some corn. Corn. Well done. Can you find some? Well done. Let's have a look at our funny pizza that we have made for Robot Rick today.
So just to note there that we used Robot Rick, a Twinkl Phonics character, to segment, but you could use any puppet or character that you like at home. These activities have been taken from a Twinkl Phonics resource called Level 1 to 2 Crossing the Bridge, which has a special focus on supporting the hearing of initial sounds and oral blending and segmenting. As you can see from the video, these activities can be done using resources that you might have at home. So we do have a Twinkl Phonics glossary, which contains all of this terminology and is a useful reference for staff and parents alike. You could ask your child's school if they can provide you with this, if it's something that you'd like to have as a reference. So there are 4 key elements that learners should master in order to read and write fluently, and we refer to these as the 4 cornerstones. Twinkl Phonics teaches all of these skills systematically within the programme. So they're the rapid recall of GPCs, rapid recall of tricky or common exception words, efficient segmenting skills, and efficient blending skills. This is a simplified version of our programme progression overview, which shows which level is typically taught when. We will look at these in further detail in a moment. This is just a guide, and you'll see it says recommended year groups. This may look different in your child's setting. Each setting is unique and each cohort is individual. From level 5, spelling and grammar are embedded into the daily lessons in Twinkl Phonics to ensure that all learners can get equal and excellent access to spelling support in school. Following the spelling and grammar progression in Twinkl Phonics will ensure that learners meet all the sounds that form the statutory spelling requirements in the 2014 National Curriculum for both Years 1 and 2. I'm now going to pass to Beth to tell us about the approach of Twinkl Phonics.
Each SSP that schools choose have their own unique approach. I'm going to tell you the key features about Twinkl Phonics that make up the core of our approach. First of all, we put stories at the heart of our phonics lessons, as we know that when children are engaged, they learn better. All learning in Twinkl Phonics is contextualised through the adventures of Kit and Sam and their friends. Through phonics learning embedded within these stories, your learners will practice the 4 cornerstones of phonics daily in a way that is both rigorous and fun. The twins, Kit and Sam, along with their family and mischievous pet dog Ben, are at the heart of the Twinkl Phonics world. Why Kit and Sam? The main characters' names, Kit, Sam, Mum, Dad, and Ben, are all decodable in early level 2. This enables the stories, lessons, and activities to be accessed by all. The names of all of the characters in the programme are intended to provide good coverage of the GPCs learned in the level they first appear. Kit and Sam grow up as the learners learn through the levels so that they feel part of the class. The family is diverse and inclusive. In level 1, learners are introduced to Kit and Sam's toys from their toy box. Each toy represents one of the 7 early aspects of phonological awareness. Whilst level 1 is typically taught in nursery, although sometimes children need to revisit these aspects at later levels too, if they have gaps. We begin teaching phonics with the 7 early aspects of phonological awareness in level 1. The 7 aspects that form the basis of the level 1 teaching are introduced by Kit and Sam's toys. A different toy represents each one of the 7 aspects of early phonological awareness. The characters provide familiar faces to learners and create learning links with the different aspects. Let's look at each aspect in turn now and explore some examples of the sorts of activities you can do with your child to strengthen their skills in each one. There are lots of activities that you can do at home with your child in order to support their development of the 7 aspects of phonological awareness. For environmental sounds, why not have a fun treasure hunt? When going for a walk, you could encourage your child to name the sounds that they can hear or even describe them. For example, they may be able to tell you about the chirping birds. For instrumental sounds, why not get noisy and create instruments out of pots and pans? Familiar songs that require the use of body percussion, like If You Are Happy and You Know It, really support the development of body percussion awareness. Explore and sing nursery rhymes regularly in order to develop an awareness of rhythm and rhyme. When you are out and about, why not play a game of I Spy with your children? Focusing on that initial letter really supports with their awareness of alliteration skills. For voice sounds awareness, you could encourage your children to use silly voices. Perhaps when you're sharing a story with them, I'm sure they would love to offer you some character voices. The aspect which can take a little longer for children to become familiar with is oral blending and segmenting. You can support them with this at home by playing blending games. For example, you might ask them if they would like for lunch today and encourage them to blend the word ham back to you. When in reception, children will cover levels 2, 3 and 4. They will start with level 2, focusing on becoming familiar with initial letter sounds. In level 3, they will be introduced to digraphs and trigraphs, and once secure, they will move into level 4, which is an opportunity for children to practice and embed their skills so far by reading more complex words with adjacent consonants. By the end of the reception year, children will be confident with level 2 and 3 letter sounds and be able to represent those letters as well as say them. Children will spend lots of time practicing their oral blending and segmenting skills and will be applying those skills into more complex words. Throughout the reception year, children will learn to read and spell some tricky words and will write letters of the alphabet correctly. As they progress into year 1, your child will then move into level 5. In level 5, alternative graphemes and pronunciations of sounds are introduced. For example, in level 3, they will have been taught that A and I are a digraph working together to make the A sound like in snail. However, now in level 5, they're introduced to the alternative spelling AY, which makes the same sound. Learners will also be introduced to split digraphs in level 5 that we mentioned earlier, A, E, I, O, U, and U. Children will continue to practice and embed their phonics skills using them for sounding out new, unfamiliar words. In level 5, learners will be exposed to learning a lot more common exception words for reading, while spelling those tricky words from earlier levels. And by the end of year 1, they will be able to spell the level 2, 3, and 4 tricky words accurately. Finally, we have level 6, which is typically taught in year 2. In level 6, learners build on their knowledge of spelling patterns and learn more alternative sounds and graphemes. For example, learning that the letter Y can make the I sound, like in the word fly. There is a big focus on grammar rules within level 6, such as adding prefixes to the start of words and learning to recognise that some words known as homophones or near homophones can sound the same but have a different meaning, such as there, and there. By the end of year 2, learners will have had the opportunity to really embed their phonics skills and will still use those to tackle unfamiliar words, but they should now be able to read more fluently and will start to really focus on their understanding and comprehension of the text. By the end of level 6, learners will be able to spell and read most common exception words. Twinkl Phonics provides lots of extra support for learners to embed their learning. When your children learn a new letter and sound in levels 2, 3, and 5, learners will be exposed to a mnemonic, which is an image, to provide visual clues about the letter sound. Children also learn a linked physical action alongside the letter and mnemonic. For example, the action for S is to make a snake's head with their hands and wiggle their body like a snake while saying the sound S. Finally, children will learn the correct grapheme formation throughout a letter formation rhyme, which is linked to the mnemonic. When you receive a copy of these slides, there will be some extra slides including an image of the mnemonics and actions for levels 2, 3, and 5. Twinkl Phonics has lots of resources and we'll share a few today that you can use at home, but schools are most likely using our core provision, lesson presentations, pupil workbooks, and reading mini books to deliver the programme. Depending how your child's school are utilising these resources, your child may bring the workbooks and mini books home to complete. The workbooks contain phonics-based activities for children to consolidate their learning, and the reading mini books are an opportunity for them to practice their reading skills of sounds and words they have already been exposed to in school. When in year 1, most children will take the phonics screening check, which is a statutory assessment for children in year 1. Children in year 2 may also sit the check if they did not pass in year 1. The assessment is administered by staff internally within the school, and the check consists of 20 decodable words and 20 pseudo or made-up words, and aims to check phonics recognition and blending skills in isolation from other reading skills. Should you wish to explore the phonics screening check in more detail, we have linked for you the Department for Education Parent Information leaflet and also our Twinkl Phonics Screening Check CPD recording. As we mentioned, the phonics screening check, your learners will have to read a mixture of real words and pseudo words. The Department for Education explains that pseudo words are words that are phonically decodable but are not actual words with an associated meaning. Each one comes with an illustration of an imaginary creature. This acts as a prompt for children to remember not to match the pseudo words with existing words in their vocabulary. You might hear your child referring to these as alien words. It is important that learners do not change pseudo words into a more recognisable real word. For example, the pseudo word braint could be read as brain or paint by a confident child who no longer relies entirely on their phonics to read if they did not understand that pseudo words are not real and may sound unusual. The phonics screening check will also contain 20 real words that are decodable for children who are meeting the age-related expectations at the time of the check. Children can use their phonics knowledge to read them. Whilst this part of the check might seem more straightforward, there are several common pitfalls to be aware of so that you can support your children. For example, children may not be familiar with the meaning of some words and try to adjust them to a more familiar word. For example, sounding out the word form and changing it to from, because that is a word that they are more familiar with. Now that we have explored what your children will be learning in their phonics lessons, now we're going to take a look at what can be done in the home environment to support them on their phonics journey. Some schools decide to send home these informative parent sheets to communicate with parents and carers what has been covered in phonics that week. These sheets contain the mnemonics and actions we have briefly looked at already, handy formation tips, songs and suggested word lists. The sheet summarises what has been covered that week, allowing you to keep up to date with your child's phonics learning. These are great to use as a prompt with your children at home to encourage them to talk about their learning at home. There may also be home learning challenges and short activities that you can support your child with to complete. It is vital that children have ample opportunities to practice and apply their phonics skills to really support their learning and embedding of skills. You are able to access our Twinkl Phonics YouTube channel without a Twinkl membership. On our channel, there are a range of videos to support you and your child. For example, a range of songs and pure sound videos to support the pronunciation of GPCs that children will be learning in school. Let's now see how you can access that YouTube channel.
On YouTube, put @Twinkl Phonics into the search bar. Look for the Twinkl Phonics logo and then click subscribe. Click on it to go to the channel. You'll now find this easily in subscriptions whenever you want to visit it. You can navigate quickly to useful videos using the Playlists tab. Here you will find videos organised by theme. Click on one you are interested in and browse the videos down the side. I have clicked here on Phonics Games. This is our Pure Sounds playlist. And here I've clicked on Rhino Readers.
Hi, I'm Jo, and I'm one of the teachers at Twinkl, working with the Rhino Readers Reading Scheme team. We're often asked about how parents can get involved with supporting their children with reading at home.
Another resource that your school may have made you aware of is our wonderful Twinkl Phonics app. You may have previously been familiar with Twinkl Phonics for web, and it hasn't gone anywhere. We've simply renamed it to coincide with expanding the accessibility of our digital phonics offering. You are now able to download the app to iOS devices and access our wonderful phonics games and activities on the go. The Twinkl Phonics app is bursting with enjoyable and engaging phonics activities to guide children towards reading fluency. If you have an Ultimate subscription, you can use your login details to access the app. Otherwise, you may be issued an individual login for your child via their school, but be sure to ask your school about learner logins. You can now download that Twinkl Phonics app on iOS and access level 1 and 2 games, with more coming on there soon. We will now spend some time exploring reading books which align with Twinkl Phonics. Rhino Readers is the reading scheme which fully aligns with Twinkl Phonics. As well as books, there are also lots of supporting resources for learners from EYFS to Key Stage 2. These books are now available as both ebooks and physical copies, so you become familiar with the books in either of these forms. Level 1 books are designed for an adult to read and explore with the child. In the hard copies, there is a QR code that can be scanned by the adults to reveal a look and listen activity that can be used alongside the reading of the text. The texts are read by adults, but learners are encouraged to join in with the interactive elements to practice the focus aspect of the text. In the example of the enormous turnip, which is linked to the traditional tales unit of level 1 Twinkl Phonics and the body percussion aspect, learners copy the body actions linked to the story. The Rhino Readers support learners as they move through each phonics level. Learners will be reading books that contain only the sounds and tricky words that they have already learnt. Each level has been divided into 3 sub-levels, A, B and C, to enable learners to progress and build confidence as they go. Sounds, tricky words, common exception words are introduced systematically and gradually. Each learner can be assigned a reading level and will need to have been taught all of the GPCs and tricky or common exception words. For example, Within the first few weeks of level 3 teaching, learners will still be reading level 2C. So please do not worry if the book your child is learning appears too easy. As well as schools sending physical copies home, you may have also been given access to ebooks through learner logins. Alternatively, you may wish to download the Rhino Readers app, where you can access the Rhino Readers library with either your child's learner login details or using your own Twinkl account login credentials. We will now take a brief look at what the Rhino Readers look like. Our Rhino Readers books make sure learners are well prepared to read, rehearsing the GPCs and tricky or common exception words they will meet in the text in our before reading pages. The sound cards match the Twinkl Phonics mats, providing familiarity, and there's blending practice too with sound buttons on focus words. Here is Jo Basher, our Rhino Readers educational content lead, to tell us more about this.
A good reading scheme book will make it clear right at the start which sounds and tricky words are used, so you can quickly check your child knows them and remind them about any they've forgotten. Here's the before reading pages we use for Fox at the Shops, a 3A Rhino Readers book. Rehearsing the sounds is really easy, just point and say. If your child's not sure, say the word underneath and bounce or stretch out the sound they need to isolate. So not just chick, but chick, and that will give them the clue. The words marked in pink are those ones which, at this stage, children won't be able to sound out. At school, they'll be taught to recognise them by sight. In levels 2 to 5 of the Rhino Readers books, they're marked in pink throughout the book, so if it's pink, stop and think. Be ready to tell your child this word if they need some help.
The after reading activities are designed to encourage book talk, recall, sequencing, comprehension and inference at a level appropriate to the text. There's enrichment too, with Rhino challenges, with ideas for linked artwork, discussion, drama, craft, investigation. There's something for everyone to add to the experience and help children make links to their own experiences.
You'll find plenty of all these sorts of questions on our after reading pages, designed to support all of these reading skills. If you want to make a book extra memorable for a child, why not try some follow-up activities? After reading activities such as imaginative role play, craft and games can reinforce that reading is a path to good times. The Rhino Readers Reading Challenges give you a chance to do that, with a range of fun activities, all based around the text.
Your children may keep their reading book for a sustained period of time, and this is for a specific reason. There is a lot of research to support that learners should reread a text multiple times in order to develop their fluency skills. For example, being able to talk about what they have read and considering what will happen next. Here's Jo again to explain that in a bit more detail.
Once you know children can talk about the book subject and they recognise the letter sounds and tricky words used, it's time to get reading. As adults, we tend to see a book like a meal. We read it once, it's digested, and then we move on. But children love the process of getting familiar with a book and will often ask for a favourite story over and over again. Here's the reason why.
When an early reader first meets a book, it's all about decoding the words and only afterwards considering the plot. In the early stages, children tend to sound out and blend just one word at a time, and it can take a little while before they're fluent enough to take in a whole sentence. They might need to go back to the beginning of the sentence a few times before they can read it fluently and hold it all in their heads. The illustrations will be your friend here, supporting the text and helping your child make sense of the story. So make sure you take a little time to look at the pictures before you launch into the words.
Don't forget that there are plenty of wonderful opportunities to read other books with and to your children to ensure reading for pleasure and enjoyment is maintained. If you would like to find out more, there are many resources available for parents from Twinkl Phonics, and you may wish to ask your schools to provide them for you. As a parent or carer, you may be supporting learners with reading either mini books or Rhino readers at home, dependent on your school's chosen reading scheme. This Quick Start Parent Guide gives you clear instructions on how to use the mini books effectively to support the teaching of phonics. It explains how to support a learner in each phonics level and provides links to handy resources that you can download and use alongside the mini books. This Rhino Reader's Guide for parents gives helpful tips and hints explaining why phonics is important when learning to read and how the Rhino Reader's reading scheme progresses through the levels. It offers support to allow the student to get the most out of their reading books. If you would like to explore the range of physical resources which are available to purchase from the Twinkl store, follow the URL on this slide. With an assortment of workbooks, flashcards, sound mats and storybooks available, there are lots of opportunities to support your child at home. Following on from this session, you may be interested to hear that Twinkl parents have a whole host of resources to support you, ranging from a 30-day free trial membership to parental support and a whole host of resources. Find out more in the Twinkl Parent User Guide. Simply scan the QR code to access. You're welcome to join the Twinkl Parents Facebook group to remain up to date with Twinkl Parents resources and support. There is also a range of free live CPD events delivered by the Twinkl Parents team. These events cover a range of subjects, including online safety, supporting children with SEND and EAL, and children's learning in their first year. Follow the link on the slides to book your free place via Eventbrite. Twinkl Cares, our customer service team, who are available 24/7 to answer any questions you may have about Twinkl. For specific Twinkl Phonics questions, you are welcome to email our Twinkl Phonics training inbox. The Twinkl Phonics trainers will be more than happy to answer any Twinkl Phonics related questions that you may have. Your first port of call for specific questions about the way that your child's school delivers the programme should be the school itself.